Hey, welcome back to R2D and the second episode of As I Remember. And this is going to be a real ramble because I want to talk about floor model TVs and repair shops and something that we've lost because older TVs, not all CRTs, but older CRTs, there was a time where you could just fix this, right? Even you probably could. But to facilitate the fixing of them, we had TV repair shops or just better electronic repair shops than what we have today. And I really started thinking about this because I finally got rid of an old TV. So about a year ago, we had to replace the big TV in our living room, right? 55-inch job. It would turn on and you had audio, but you had no picture. Originally, I thought it was maybe an LED strip. Took the whole thing apart, and it just wasn't economical to fix it. Right, the LEDs checked out fine. It was the control board, and the control board for this huge TV was maybe 5 inches by 3 inches, right? And it was mostly discrete components, nothing that you would really replace on it. But what I found was that getting a replacement control board for that Samsung TV was, as much of getting a used TV, like the exact same model. So we bought a new one anyway, but it just made me think that it is not really practical, economically, or just in general, to repair modern TVs. They're made to be disposable. Um, and when you look at the price point for them, how they're built and composed, and how the LEDs are getting driven harder, they're just not really made to last. And even some older TVs like this may not have been designed to last, but you can open them up. The components in here we can repair. We can fix this, and it really made me think about a floor model TV I had growing up. It was a big Magnavox unit. I know it. I have a picture of it. I can look up the model number and I'll put it in here. But it was, I loved it. That was really the first TV I remember. It was in our living room. And I think what people miss out on today were TVs like that were centerpieces, especially the floor models, because they were meant to be furniture. This one had molding on it. It was nice. It fit in with some of the other furniture we had in the living room. And it was a beast. I mean, I still have a scar on my forehead from when I was a real little guy, just learning how to walk, and I fell, bashed my head on the TV. I had to get stitches, and I still have a scar there today. But these things they were centerpieces. And even when we had the next evolution from floor models was, not floor model TVs, right? They lived in like an entertainment center or an entertainment cabinet, but it was still a centerpiece, and there were accoutrements around it, and it really took up the life of the room. Where TVs today, we put them up on the wall, they're there. Not as comfortable, right? Because we kind of moved from looking at TVs to the floor, then into the entertainment center when it was in front of you, and that was a really comfortable viewing angle. And now we put them up, so maybe we'll go back down again. But it, I don't think that we have the same relationship with television today as we did in the late '90s or earlier. Um, Programming's different and everything else. But the point is, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about floor model TVs and TV repair. That Magnavox, I remember at least two occasions where it didn't work. And I remember my dad and our neighbor loading it up to take off to the TV repair place. And I think once a guy came to the house to fix it. But those were the times where, somebody could just come open it up. They would have parts, kind of like how, I have parts and other people in this hobby have parts all over the house, but they were able to replace it. And if they couldn't get a part, and this it's a Samsung too, but it's a generic model. Um, I could get these parts. I can order most of these parts today, and even up till the late '90s, I can order everything, probably even the flyback and everything else new. So you would take it to this TV repair place, and they would fix it, and that was it. Because these things were I don't want to call them investments, but they were centerpieces. They were part of your living room. They were part of your life. Whereas now, they're just things. They're disposable things. We ripped the TV off the wall, we put a new one on, that was the end of it. And I remember though when we got rid of that floor model TV, and we bought a black box TV, right? The standard ones that you would have found in the mid '90s, right? And we got an entertainment center with it. I was bothered. I was bothered when we replaced that because the floor model was so much part of growing up, and I had a lot of memories with that TV. And I think because it was wood, right? Foxwood, probably imitation, but because it was, not didn't look like an outward boring electronic thing. It had personality. It was part of it. I remember hooking, my original Nintendo up to it and everything else, and just spending a lot of time with that. And then it was replaced with a very bland, just black Sony TV of the time, right? Whereas when I replaced our TV, I said we took it off the wall, we put the new one up, my kids were there, it was like no big deal, right? Because, the TVs today don't have personality with them, they don't have feeling. And you could say that with a lot of things. Some Apple products kind of have that. That's nice, right? But realistically, my daily driver laptop, my Lenovo T495 ThinkPad, it's a tool. It doesn't have personality. Not as much as that floor model TV did. But that's something we've missed, right? That's gone. We're never going to have that again. You're never going to have that personality in devices. We're never going to have TVs that are huge furniture centerpieces, right? Because think about it. You had the TVs. You would put a lot of people would have like doilies on the top, and you'd have your VCR maybe, but there'd be some centerpiece on it, like a vase or something, right? We had the VCR was there, Super Nintendo was there, Nintendo was there, and there might have been like a flower pot or something in the middle. You don't get that anymore because the TVs are just accessories or they're going up on the wall. And the same thing with repairing. Like I said, that was it was a Samsung TV. It was a new Samsung TV. There wasn't anything in there to really repair. You would have replaced boards that there isn't a readily supply of. You're pulling it out from another TV. They're realistically, when they say no serviceable parts, there are no user serviceable parts in there. Whereas there was probably a sticker on this saying no user serviceable parts inside, but that was really just a safety warning where there's a lot of stuff in here. If you're safe and if you know what you're doing, you can fix. Because CRTs like this, or just a lot of electronics from this time, even going to the late '90s, there are components in here that you could still buy today. And with a little bit of knowledge, with, not specialized tools, you can replace, you can repair. And it's interesting because across the board, we're moving more and more toward disposable items. Can I replace the batteries in this MacBook Air? Absolutely. Is it a pain? Yep. Is it worth it for everybody? No. Same thing was with this electric screwdriver. I just can't pop batteries out on this, right? Realistically, when these batteries don't perform anymore, it's going to get tossed. That's how it works. But devices like this still live on because we could fix it. And there are people in this retro computing community, retro TV, retro everything, all the stuff that we have. All of this can be fixed. And that's a beautiful thing about it. These were not designed to be disposable like modern TVs. And we're starting to see a resurgence in repair places, do-it-yourself places, maker spaces, stuff like that. And I think that's great. I think that's wonderful having people learn these skills or at least be exposed to these skills. But it's not as prevalent. Um, so I grew up in a relatively small town in Pennsylvania. Um, but I vividly remember two, maybe three repair shops that were either branded as TV repair or electronic repair or like a general home goods repair place, right? Like a handyman place. Um, they're all closed now, right? And even in New Hampshire now, I would be hard pressed to find something. I'm sure there are something around, but it's not as advertised. It's not as prevalent as what it once was because up until the mid late 90s, maybe even early 2000s for some of these places, their living was repairing devices. You know, um, we really don't have that. The closest thing you might have is like a cell phone repair kiosk in a mall or a strip mall or something, and all they're going to do is really replace screens and batteries. Most of these places are not going to do component level repairs on your cell phone or your laptop. They're gonna, if this doesn't work, they're gonna order a new motherboard, swap it in, and call it good. They're probably not going to replace it at the component level. Whereas if it was the late 80s, early 90s, I took this television in, they would diagnose it, they would replace, that capacitor or, whatever to repair it. It's a different methodology, and just a different way of doing business because of the way manufacturers are making things today. Um, yeah, that was a ramble, wasn't it? I'm going to close it out there because I want to clean this up a little bit. It's a great unit. Works perfectly. I just want to clean it up a little bit. But I wanted to share that with you because it's interesting how disposable electronic items are today. And there really isn't a lot of pushback on it. Right to repair is gaining more ground, right? But just because we have right to repair, just because companies have repairability built into devices doesn't mean that we're going to see something as accessible, as repairable as older devices because of just miniaturization and the way discrete components are, it's not really going to be there. So, yeah, we are going to wrap this up now. Let me know what you think about these As I Remember series. I got some really good ideas for some future ones. Put in the comments below what you think about this, and if there's anything you want to hear me ramble about. If you like what we're doing here at Retro Tech or Die, like, subscribe, tell your friends, and we'll catch you next time.